Martin Luther King Day, we'll start with that. Today we're going to start with Martin Luther King Day. What he would think of America, a few things he would be proud of. We're accepting people that are gay or transgender, and that's okay. Blaming everything on Black Lives Matter, he would not think it is okay. When a person says that Black Lives Matter blew down buildings, some of them are incorrect. But it sounds like when you say that, every black person I think we are behind of what we were 8 years ago today. Using explicit racist words, using the N-word or C-word, it teaches other people to use that word. And spare me if you think that's okay. Because using that word teaches somebody else to use that word. And if you are willing to fight, it's wrong for anyone to use that word. Here's Coach Carter with more on that.
The night numbers. See, that's my big nigga. Hey, if you was any bigger, you'd be my bigger.
Sit down. Sit down! It's a derogatory term used to insult our ancestors. See, if a white man used it, you'd be ready to fight. Your using it teaches him to use it. You're saying it's cool. Well, it's not cool. And when you're around me, I don't want to hear that shit. We clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Seattle will make close against the 49ers. In fact, the Seahawks had the lead at one point. But a fumble by Seattle and a recovery by the 49ers really turned the game around. It was 41-23 was the final. And the 49ers outscored the Seahawks 18-6 in the fourth quarter. Final was again 41-23. The 49ers will either play the Buccaneers or Cowboys. That game will be decided tonight. The Jacksonville Jaguars and Chargers met up. After 4 Trevor Lawrence turnovers, it was 27-0 Chargers. But you thought it was over. Well, you were wrong. As bad as the first half was, Trevor Lawrence came out with a great second half. The Chargers would go on to lose, believe it or not, after a 27-0 lead. The Chargers would blow it and charger it up. The Jags move on to play the Chiefs after their amazing comeback, winning 30-31 on a final kick. That was the final. Jags will move on to play the Chiefs tomorrow. We'll talk about that more Saturday and tomorrow and Sunday. Chiefs will play the Jaguars. Here is a link from Friday's podcast. We broke that one down. All the games down. Here's a link for Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Dolphins and Bills. Well, you thought it was going to be a Bills blowout, but the Dolphins managed to stay with it with third-year rookie quarterback Skylar Thompson, KC product, and Kansas State product. He went 18 of 45, 200 yards, and 1 pick and 2 interceptions. That's not going to win you any postseason game. I'm probably thinking his entire career, he probably won't win a playoff game, even though I do like him. He's a KC product and a Kansas State product. Stephon Diggs played well. Neither defense was great, but the Dolphins continue to stay in it. If you watched the game, you thought the Bills would be up by 13, but they weren't. They kept the game close to the first half. Then a false start that put them 4th and 6. They would have gone up maybe at midfield and a chance to convert a 4th and 1, but instead on a false start it made it 4th and 6, and they would turn over the ball to eventually lose the game. I thought this might be one of the games of the week. It might be the game of the week. It was probably the second worst game of the weekend, which means we have had they got tied at 24. The Giants took back the lead with a 112-play, 75-yard drive. The biggest play, 21-yard reception to Isaiah Hodge. Then the Vikings got the ball back, but on a 4th and 8, the most overpaid player, threw a ball for 3 yards, which ended the Vikings' hope on 4th and 8. They only threw for 5 yards. Saquon Barkley had 109 purpose yards. Also, Isaiah Hodge had 8 receptions on 109 yards. Daniel Jones goes over 300. Now we'll move on to the Bengals and Ravens. What a game that was. In the fourth quarter, on a 3rd down and goal from the 1, you thought that the Ravens were going to take the lead. Well, wrong. Tyler Huntley leaped over the line with the ball straight out. And you should just fall down and dive over the end zone, especially 2 downs to go. Dick went over the end zone. Cannot happen as a play because you're more than likely fumble, especially if you are Tyler Huntley, a second-string quarterback. Bengals Sam Hubbard ran it all the way back. Big man touchdown for 98 yards. There was also clock management problems by the Ravens. They were trying to score instead of taking a timeout with about a minute mark. Instead, they wound the clock down to 34 seconds, and they did not have enough time to score. Now, it would be a long 4th down, so you never know what would have happened, but you've got to give them time to win the game. Final was 24-7.
Put them right around Huntley. He reaches. Oh, that ball's out. That's live. Back the other way. Sam Hubbard, the Cincinnati Kid. Hubbard's got a convoy. Chased by Andrews at the 30, the 20. He will.
I'm going to rely on social media, ESPN, and Jason and Sam to talk about if the Cowboys lost, would they fire Mike McCarthy? If they lose and get blown out, I say they will. It's somehow unfair probably, but it's always, my Cowboys lose, it's always McCarthy's fault. If the Cowboys win, the credit goes to Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator, and Dave Quinn, defensive coordinator. And I think they're gone unless they fire McCarthy and hire one of them. If the Cowboys get blown out, I think they will fire Mike McCarthy. If they can stay close, I think they will probably keep McCarthy, and obviously if they win, they'll probably keep McCarthy as well. Now let's lean on ESPN and talk more.
There's another person who might not get another opportunity if Monday night doesn't go right. What do we think, Diana, from the people you talk to around the league, is at stake for the head coach Monday night in Tampa?
Yeah, there's certainly lots of talk in the league right now, the future of Mike McCarthy. And playoffs with a roster like the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones has an expectation of winning. And, you know, when you take a look from top to bottom, this is a winning team that should go far in the postseason. So in terms of Mike McCarthy's future, it's certainly shaky. And there's definitely some thoughts around the league that if he doesn't win this game, there are just a lot of question marks about his future in Dallas.
That's right. And I understand people are going to say, but wait, Jerry Jones gave a definitive answer about this on Tuesday. This is the problem with him being the only owner who has his own radio show during the season. He has to answer that question. How is he going to answer it? I mean, imagine the conversation on Get Up if he says, oh, yeah, if we lose on Monday night, Mike is out of there. He has to say what he has to say.
Yeah.
So he said it. Is it fair, Ninko? Should Mike McCarthy, who has won 12 games each of the last 2 seasons, be coaching for his job Monday night?
Yeah, he has to win this game. This is a must-win game for the Cowboys. And you think about just in general the last 2 years of the Cowboys. Last year, how that ended with the time issue and running out of time, and then penalties. Last year, they were the highest penalized team. I think this year they were 5th. That is just the lack of discipline in certain areas of the game. If they lose this game, I don't think Jerry Jones is content with losing wild card games. He wants to move on. He wants to be in championship-type games. He wants to get back to where they were. They haven't been there in a long, long time.
He thinks this team is so good that it should be there. Is that right, Tim? There was a moment in time, November 20th of this year, they beat the Vikings 40-3. And the conversation the next day was, our analytics put them as the best team in the league. Everyone here is talking Super Bowl, and it has sort of gone like this ever since. Are the Cowboys too good to be a first-round exit?
No, I don't think they're too good. I don't think there is a team in the NFC, maybe outside of Philadelphia, that's too good to be a first-round exit, and they're not because they have a bye week.
Right.
So, look, here's the way I look at it. I think Mike McCarthy's done a good job there. I get he's going to be under pressure if they're one and done in the postseason. They have 28 fewer penalties than they had last year. They, in crunch time, so final 2 minutes of the first half, final 2 minutes of the game, they've outscored opponents by 111 points. He's won a bunch of games, as you pointed out, each of the last 2 years. They're 5-2-1 and one-score games over the last 2 years. Like, Mike McCarthy has not done a bad job.
He went 4-1 when a starting quarterback
We
was
went
there.
4-1 with Cooper Rush as a starter. He has not done a bad job.
Yeah.
If anywhere else, and they're saying, everyone's saying, like, this guy is a Super Bowl winning coach who's doing a good job with that football team. So I'm not ready to say, like, hey, that is it if it happens. Now, listen. Last week was bad. Like, they didn't, like, to me, and I for one think McCarthy's done a good job. Last week bothered me watching that, to think, you don't know that like, there's still a lot at stake for you, and you played terrible against against Washington. So, look, I think there'll be a lot of noise around it. I think ultimately, even if they lose in the first round, he does not get fired.